Hi everyone, welcome back to another session of Handwriting Critique and Happy New Year. I hope everyone's doing well, staying safe. My resolution this year is to be more responsive to you guys, my YouTube subscribers, and hopefully I will submit more videos and be more engaging. I'm so sorry that, I've been neglecting y'all. I really am more responsive on my Instagram, but this year I promise I will uh, build up a better relationship. So, one of the ways I thought is to catch up on all these handwriting critiques submissions that I've received from June. So I'm sorry, Caroline. I hope you haven't been waiting too long, but better late than never, right? So this is an email letter that I got from Caroline, and she says uh, she's been interested in script for a long time, despite compliments, which I can see is beautiful. She never feels like she's made the page look anything but messy, but she can't put her finger on exactly what is making it look messy. So let's try and figure it out. Uh, First of all, um, it's very nice cursive. Uh, I really like it. So it's very clean. I can see it's very neat, and that's really good. As far as messiness, I can tell. The first thing that jumps to me is possibly I think you might be using a pen that is too thick for you. So you're like so careful and neat, and you're very careful in forming your letters, I can tell. But because the pen you're using is so thick and you're writing so small, it's not giving you a lot of room to breathe, especially because you're writing within these very thin, tight spaces. So, for example, if I was to try and rewrite your word extraordinary, you are basically trying to squeeze in all these gorgeous curves and twists and turns that you have within this tiny space, which is what, like 4 millimeters? There's not enough space. So you can either write bigger, uh, pretend this is correct spelling, or use a thinner, finer pen. I have a feeling that you might not want to write bigger because, handwriting is personality and it could just be your comfort level on writing in, you know, a small size. And that's totally fine. So if you was to keep the same size, then maybe switch to a finer pen. This is a 0.5 pen, and already you can see that it is a little thinner than this G2, which is like 1. So size down your pen or size up your writing. I hope that helps. I don't know if you noticed, but your very first word, and I always compare the very first word with the very few last words because when you start off, you have the intention. So when you start with the please, it's pretty big, but then it starts getting smaller. Did you notice that? If you compare the word times with please, yeah. So maybe this is somewhere here is your comfort level. I don't know. So you have to figure that out. um, Another thing that you can do once you get a finer pen, because you have all these very interesting twists and turns in your writings. So, for example, like this word complicated. I'm gonna fold this so we can compare. You have, all these little things going on. Like this little tail here. You have this really cute thing that goes around your O. You know, I mean, this is all super nice. Like that is just, look at that O. This is all great. But it would be better if you had space for all of it. So right now it's looking messy because it's all being squeezed into a tiny space. So if I was to write the word felt, it's too small. So if you want to keep the same gesture, I would size it, um, space it out, So you can keep the same size, but kind of like stretch it out a lot more, right? So if the word complemented with the same gestures you have, stretch it out. That way it will have more space to breathe and more space for all your little quirks. Right. So another thing that you could do is, you have like all these little loops. You could consciously try and leave room for your loops. So, for example, like your G, you do a lot of this, right? And your Ys, you don't do that. No, you don't have to. You do this, which is great. But then you would want to at least leave some kind of space in the loop. Because what you're doing right now is, always to use the same pen, something like that. The loops close. It looks like it's choking. You're choking your loops. Or like here, the E, it became a smudge. So I think that made it look messy. Once get a finer pen and start letting your loops breathe, and there is space, and of course, stretch everything out. Let's see. You can see it breathing more space. I mean, you're doing really well with most of your letters. Like, that's great. That's beautiful. This one's, that has plenty of space. That's gorgeous. Maybe this one needs to be more spaced out, this word. And your O's here, you see how I can definitely see the loops in between. So that's great. But then there are times where it's just a bit too squeezed together, like this word. The A is just choking. So, take your time to work on Having lots of space in your loops. Never ever do any of this smudge or chalkiness. I think once you do that, your writing will be so beautiful. I mean, it's already beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's so neat. You have like, I know you're a very careful kind of person. You take your time to like carve out all these little uh, letter forms. So I think if you take these tips, it would be a better version of you. Okay, I hope that helps, Caroline. Um, I would love to see your stuff again if you send me some updates. So let's move on to the next person. Okay, now look at this one. Beautiful, gorgeous, right? So this person would want to be known only as V. Like from the movie. So V says, uh, this is his or her, but I'm gonna say his, a compact hand which he uses for note taking and journaling. He tends to write fairly quickly out of necessity, all right? And he would write on desks to dinner tables to portfolios on his lap. So uh, he needs to be fairly portable. The output itself, he says, is highly uneven in all measurable ways and would appreciate your recommendations on how to improve this condition. Highly uneven. I'm not sure what you mean because I think it's beautiful. And he uses a Pilot Custom 912 extra fine nib with a Spencerian modification from nibs.com. For those who are not familiar, that's a very expensive pen. V has money. He has used dip pens on occasion, but they are hardly practical in the office. Absolutely true. Yes. So as we can see, such beautiful personality. I mean, just woo. I mean, this looks like something out of 1800s, right? I think your layout, your writing, your flourishing is gorgeous. I really have not much to say, but V is concerned about the output. He says it's uneven. Well, I wouldn't say it's uneven because from what I see, your writing is pretty even. Everything is uh, consistent because if you look at your T's, your D's, your L's, they're all about the same height. Your lowercase x height is perfect. So you gotta give yourself some credit. it's 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 fine. Um, One thing I do want to point out is perhaps, and this is my opinion, um, is that your writing might be a bit too small. You know, it's not unusual because I've seen a lot of writing like this, but because it's too um, short, it can be difficult to read. So it's okay to write small, like, you know, but it becomes a problem when it's too, shallow. So you're dangerously Whew, I mean, it's consistent everything, but if you were to send this to somebody, it might be a little difficult. I can read it. I mean, I'm not saying I can't read it. I can read it fine, but I'm used to reading cursive. Somebody who doesn't read cursive normally, maybe like a teenager or a child, would might struggle a little bit. So my suggestion is keep your your gorgeous layout and uh, your personality, but maybe heighten your X height a little bit. So rather than everything being like, what is this, 2 millimeters, heighten it a little bit. Once you do that, you will find that uh, your letter forms will shine through better. Um, I really like how you have a lot of space in between your lines. I don't know if you're using guidelines, but it's very nice because these days our lines are like, what is this, 0.5. People feel like there's not enough space in between. So whenever someone's writing blah 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 and then blah 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 and then they're squeezing their uppercase, I mean their uh, upper loops and lower loops, it's sometimes better to just skip a line. So for example, like rather than try to force something on the next line, just skip one line and do the other line. That way you will not fight each other at all if you have a loop on the top or the bottom. So for your case, that's great because your Y's, your F's absolutely do not intersect the next line, and that lends to the beauty of your writing. I would suggest taking time to form your letters. I know I say this in every video, but you have it. I mean, look at this word you wrote, appreciated. It's so beautiful. If you zoom in, you can see that V knows where to, whoops. If you zoom in, you know V knows where to lift, where to stop, and how to form the beautiful letter forms. Only thing though is what you're doing is the letters are not properly formed, I think. So I'm kind of like nitpicking here. But if I was to replicate how you wrote, appreciate it, because you're lifting in between, it becomes disjointed and might be difficult to read. Of course, I'm zooming in, but if you zoom out to the real piece of paper, uh, it becomes like almost squiggles, you know. So take your time, and I know you can do this because you have your letter forms. To form your letters and then size down if you want. I think once you do that, it'll look beautiful. If you're a fan of small writing, I want to show you this letter. that was written by one of my very favorite penmen, E.W. Blosser, and he wrote it to Madaras, another famous penman. So I don't know if this is actual size, but I think it's pretty close. Even so, at this size, which is tiny, and I think pretty similar to your size, every letter is still beautifully formed and very clean and perfectly legible. So it's totally achievable. Well, you know, um, if we look at his P A G E I S A, of course, this is like a master writing, but I think you are heading towards the same direction. So you might want to take inspiration from these guys and see if you can achieve the same kind of letter forms and legibility and how he writes these things in the same kind of a small nature as you do. So this is why, and if you look up the Madaras letter, you'll find it. That's a D. Ironic. Okay. I hope this has been helpful, and I hope I have uh, caught up with some of the submissions that I've gotten from you guys. So, uh, if you want me to critique your handwriting and for me to offer suggestions on how to improve, you can email me and I will get back to you. Hopefully, not, you know, 6 months later. I promise. I promise. Okay. Happy New Year. Bye.